Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of SaaS Showdown. I'm Rose Layton, and this is my colleague,
Colin McCarthy.
And today we're going to be talking about using SaaSOps to deprovision your users. Colin, this seems like a very big topic to cover in 20 or 30 minutes.
Yes, and everybody listening, if they know anything about this, will have their own way of doing it, their own opinions, their own recipe, their own process. So there are multiple ways to do this. But for those who are new to SaaSOps and maybe using a tool, hopefully this will be very insightful. And even for those people who are experienced, maybe they'll learn something new or think of a different way of doing some things.
So, Colin, when you think about, let's say you have an employee and HR comes and says, hey, Jerry's last day is today. You need to make sure he doesn't have access to anything after 4 p.m. What does that look like for you?
I'd be like, why am I just hearing about that now? I was just about to head out of the door to go to the Hamptons for the weekend. Not that I would ever do that. But yes, no, I would be thinking if I didn't have any other tool to manage, let's say our Google Workspace account. Yeah. In this example, we use Google Workspace. If I didn't have any other tool to do that, then I'd have to think about all of the different areas within the admin panel that I would have to interact with to secure that account. And that's just assuming what was the guy who's leaving? What was his name? Jerry?
Jerry, yeah.
Jerry. Jerry, you say Cherry or Jerry? I
Jerry.
Want to make sure. Cherry. All right. All right. I want to make sure I deactivate the right account. Otherwise, that's a whole other problem.
Don't deactivate Cherry. She's not leaving. Jerry is leaving.
Jerry is leaving. All right. Okay. All right. That's good. Glad we've got that sorted.
Step number one, make sure you know who you're deactivating.
Yes. Yeah. This is why this is another episode is like, having a very good relationship between the HR department, the talent management operations department, and the IT department. So you do get that clear communication and you have all your processes aligned.
Put it down on paper.
But let's assume that we've only got the Google Workspace account. I would be thinking everything they have to access. But who just uses one piece of software or has only one, application or maybe only one login? People have multiple logins. So
I would be thinking, Colin, okay, let's just suspend the account. Or let's just delete the account.
That's a bit drastic. poor Jerry has been
new to this.
Jerry, yes, yeah, and I have seen that. Very, very strangely, was working with a company, a professional services company in a certain Google-centric industry where I was dealing with an account manager, and I emailed them and I got a bounce back, and I thought that's very strange. And then I waited a few days and I emailed again and said, was there any problem with your email? I got a bounce back the other day. And somebody else emailed and said, I'm the head of sales. The guy you were previously emailing is no longer here. And I was like, that explains why I got the bounce back, because I'm assuming he was let go and in your process, you just decided to suspend the account, which doesn't work. It does stop access, but it's like, completely deleting, crippling the account, because those people who are used to emailing that account will get a bounce back because essentially that account doesn't exist.
Right. And so then the question is like, is it the company? Is it the person? I don't know.
Yeah. Is it a technical problem? Yeah. So I would never... Suspending is never good. It breaks too many things. Also, any documents that they owned would no longer be available. There's a whole load of other stuff. And deleting, obviously, you'd lose all of their data. And if they've been there for a long time, some of that stuff will need to be transferred and shared with somebody else. So there needs to be a process, a checklist. And unfortunately, that checklist requires a number of clicks.
How many clicks, Colin?
I don't know, but you know what? We have about 25 minutes. Let's find out. So Cherry is staying with us. Jerry is leaving. So
Jerry is leaving.
I would need to go to admin.google.com,
right?
Sign in, and
I'm not going to count those as clicks.
No. I've signed into the platform. Yeah. So then I would need to, I can either do it very slowly and go all the way through the, I could click on users and I could scroll down and find it. That would be a terrible way.
Why don't you count your clicks and I'll walk through the process. Okay.
Yeah.
So Colin laid it out pretty well. Like, you do not want to just suspend a user when they leave. While it does achieve the goal of removing access to the account, they will no longer be able to access their account. It doesn't address the goal of like what happens to that person's data, what happens to the people that person interacts with. And it's just not a very good like continuity experience for the business itself. So when you deprovision a user, there's a couple of things, and I didn't know this when I first started doing it. So it was very interesting to me to learn. One of the first things you do is you reset the password.
Reset the password. I'm about to do that. Got me to three clicks to get there. 3
clicks to reset the password. Just to get there.
I got to do a 4th click to get out of the reset the password screen.
Right. So after you reset the password, then you're going to sign out of all sessions or kill their cookies, whichever.
Yeah. Where's that? Security. So that's 1 click. And then scroll down, sign in cookies, 1 click, 2 clicks for reset. So what are we at? 7 now. Okay, 7.
Yep. So you reset the password, you sign out all the sessions, but then you also have to think about things like 2-step verification, right? You need to turn off their 2-step verification. Google is very squirrely about letting people back into their accounts even after you've reset the password. If they have 2-step enabled, then they're able to verify themselves some other way. So you need to make sure you reset the 2-step, delete the backup codes in case they have their backup codes printed out like they're a good person. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't actually know anybody who prints out their backup codes. I think most people screenshot them or take a picture on their phone or whatever, but you need to delete them so that they're no longer valid. Disabling 2-step is usually a good step. Then after you've taken care of all the steps needed to revoke access to the account, then you can start thinking about cleanup, right? So what's going to happen to this user, their data, the things they're a part of. So you would want to remove them from all their Google groups if you're in Google.
Wait a minute. Google Groups. All right, let me find where that is. I've just reset the backup codes. That was another 4 clicks or 3 clicks. I'm at 10 clicks so far. So let me go back out of security. I know I can get to groups within the user page. Before, you couldn't do that. You'd have to go into groups and find each group individually. But now I can go to the groups. All right, they're in 4. That's another click, 1. And then I can do, he's in 4 groups, thankfully, Jerry. So it's going to be 1 click for every.
Many.
It's going to be, I can do select all. That's good. I can remove individual ones, or I can select all, which is another click. And then I can click remove.
You're right. That's
click remove again to remove them from all groups. That was another 3 clicks, I think. So we're at 13 so far.
13 clicks total.
I think it's 14 because I had to find the groups page. So I think we're at 14 clicks.
Okay. So after we removed from groups, we can think about data. Do we want to transfer any data to their managers? Do we want to transfer it to another employee who's assuming their role? Do they have any primary or secondary calendars they're a part of? Do they have any Google sites that they're responsible for or owner of? I don't know, Colin. Can you do that in the admin console?
You can't do secondary calendars. So you said something about. Can you do
primary calendars?
You could do primary calendars, yes.
Okay.
So let's do data and calendars. All right.
Right.
But We could save a few clicks by doing some more things in the user page that I'm on at the moment. So we could go, I do have the option to go into manage devices. So I do see that Jerry has a managed device. So I can click once to get into manage devices. I can find his device. He's got a mobile phone, a cell phone. I click that device and then I click another device. What's another button? What's that? 3. And I select wipe accounts because we want our account data to be wiped from his device.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that? It's 4. And then I have to confirm that I want to wipe the, I want to wipe our account. So that's 5. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I totally forgot about the mobile.
Yeah. So, but also now let's take him into the mobile devices page for everybody. So now I'd have to go back in to find him again. Okay. So I think we're about 20 clicks. If somebody's really keeping score at home, well done for counting, because I'm trying to count on one hand and keep running out of fingers. So let's do data. And to do that, I have to click on the burger menu, which is 1 click, go to apps, which is a hover over, go to Google Workspace, which is a hover. Then I have to click again, go down to docs and drives, which is another click. So I'm at 3 clicks, which brings us up to 23. And I have to scroll down and go to transfer ownership. That's 24. And then this is where I can put in Jerry's email address, the user that is going to get their data. And then I can click transfer files. And then I get a pop-up confirming that I'll get an email when it's done. So that's 26. Yeah. Then you said calendars. Yeah. Let's go.
Primary calendars, because you can't do secondary calendars from the Google admin console. Yeah.
So then I'm going to click on the Google Workspace breadcrumb. So that's, what's that? 26, 27. Click on really calendars.
Those icon foods
27s. 27, and then manage events, 28, go into the manage events tabs, event transfers, what's that, 29. Right, now I can put in Jerry's username for who's the source, and then the target. And I've also got 2 tick boxes here for release resources and transfer the events to another user. And I want to release the meeting rooms if we have them booked, and I want to transfer it to this other person. So that's 29, 30, and then do transfer events and then click done to get out of there. So that's 32. So we've secured the account and we've transferred the data for Google Workspace, and we're at 30 clicks. And I'm sure we've missed something.
Well, so we know we can't transfer sites. We can't transfer secondary calendars. One thing we didn't do yet is we didn't choose what happens to the email. So we have 2 camps at my organization about what happens to email. Sometimes it makes sense to delegate it. And sometimes it just makes sense to forward it. But always, you usually want to put an auto reply.
Yes. Let's put in, because Jerry was quite important. As you said, people need to know that Jerry has left.
Jerry, they need to know that he's left, and somebody needs to get access to people who are still trying to email Jerry.
Yeah.
So they can take action.
So I've spent a number of years in the admin panel. There is not a way to adjust somebody's out of office in the admin panel. And there is not a way for me to do delegated access to give somebody else access to his email account. Right. I know that I could sign in as Jerry.
You changed his password, so you could sign in as Jerry.
Do you know what, though? I didn't record what his password was.
You just random generated it?
I just random generated it because I wanted to secure the account.
Which is a security thing, right? You definitely want a random generated password. You don't want Jerry to guess it, and you don't want anybody else to either.
No. So now I need to go back, change Jerry's password again. We enforced 2FA, and because we deleted his backup codes and we don't have his device to do the 2FA, I'm going to have to generate more backup codes, and I'm going to have to use one of his backup codes.
Can't you just disable his 2FA?
We have it in this hypothetical organization. It's enforced.
It's enforced for everybody. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
No loopholes.
Yeah. So they're more clicks. Jump to the end.
So then you're opening an incognito window or a new Chrome profile, logging into Jerry's account, setting up his out of office, delegating his email if that's the way you choose to do it, or forwarding his email, which also cannot be done in the admin console.
No.
Not unless you use domain level forwarding, which I don't recommend. Don't do it.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So that's probably another 15 clicks to get all of that stuff done.
Minimum, I would say.
Yeah. And I've been going through this, and we started this about 10 minutes ago. So it has taken us, with a little bit of chit chat in between, probably about 10 minutes to do that simple task for one user that's got access to one.
So now, Colin, what if HR comes to you and says, everything is on fire. I need you to term 15 employees today.
Oof. We're
killing the whole marketing team today.
I'll be like, well, I'll get it done in an hour and a half because I've only got, it takes like 10 minutes a person.
Just that part where you're revoking access, doing minimal data transfer.
Yeah.
That is like the bare minimum.
Well, yeah, you would have to go in that example and just do the initial thing, which is reset the password, reset the signing cookies, although resetting the password should prompt the resetting of the signing cookies, but it's not always 100% proof. And then there's sometimes setting the passwords doesn't sync down to the mobile devices for a long time, and they can still get access to stuff on their phone. So you really want to
revoke the mobile device.
You really want to wipe the account. So you could go through and you could do the bare minimum of changing the password, resetting it,
and then go back stuff.
And you would have to have like such a checklist because, you're doing all of these repetitive tasks and something gets forgotten and somebody gets added, kept in a group or kept licensed for something.
Right.
Yeah,
or their files don't get transferred or whatever.
Yeah. It's a big problem.
Yeah. That's a lot of stuff.
Yep. So there is a better way of doing all of that.
There is a better way.
Certainly if you were a small organization that had 10 employees and you didn't have a lot of people leaving and a lot of people joining, then just using the admin panel is fine. And I know a number of small companies, nonprofits, charities that operate that way. But if you're any size of an organization, I would say...
Or if you're just really bad at checklists.
Really bad checklists. I would say bare minimum, anywhere between... probably the maximum minimum number of employees would be like 100. I think once you get over 100 employees, you would need
starts to get tricky.
A better tool. Either utilizing, obviously, if you've got less, there are free tools that we have spoken about before.
Absolutely, yeah. And what we're talking about, to be clear, is automation. Yes. So those checklists will grow and grow and grow, and they become like, they start with just like 5 tasks, right? And then as you become more mature in your IT organization and your SaaS organization, they will grow to 30 items, 70 items. Sometimes I've seen people who have, hundreds of items for a single person, depending on how many apps they have across all these different things and how much like nuance there is to how their organization handles their users. So it's not scalable. And I agree with you, Colin. I think once you get above right about 100, you're going to start seeing a real need for automation because you're going to start seeing steps get missed and people get missed.
Yeah.
Right. And the tricky part is once you introduce retention policies, compliance. Once you introduce all of that, you have to have a paper trail of all the things you did. You have
documented,
you have to be able to show when somebody was, terminated, basically, from their accounts and verify that they did not have access. And sometimes then you can't just go ahead and delete the account. Sometimes you have to hang on to them for quite some time.
Yeah.
for legal reasons.
Yeah. And finance information and all of that has to be held for a certain number of years.
But who's responsible for deleting an account 6 months after it was termed?
The IT department. They've got to be working
just
with
run a whole calendar of
working with their compliance department and legal team and everybody else, work out a retention policy, and then work out a process for managing that. So obviously automation is the key. There's different ways of doing it. There's a free way, which is using GAM, and then there would be, if you're on Google, if you're on Office 365, you can use PowerShell and get a lot of that automated through PowerShell. Certainly if you're on Azure AD or on-premise Active Directory. And there are other tools for that as well. But then, in the growing market of SMPs, SaaS management platforms, there's a number of players that will allow you to automate and create workflows. And workflow is the sort of the industry term for how you can automate and create a flow of your work to make things easier.
Turn that checklist into a flow.
Yeah. And this is where if we had 10 of our colleagues around us, they would all have 10 different ways of doing it. For their individual organization, for different org structures. We as an organization do have all of our users in different OUs based on Office, and then we have a leavers OU, and some people call them ex-employees, or what do you have a term for them? I've seen lots of different terms.
We just call them termed users or termed employees.
Yeah, termed.
Well, so that's our internal IT word. We don't use that with the rest of the company.
Right.
That's our IT HR word. Okay. It sounds really bad. When you've had either a round of layoffs or something, it sounds really terrible to say termed users. Or if you've had a death in your company. Right. Sounds really terrible.
Yes. Yeah.
So for those, we say former employees.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So you could have an OU for former employees. Sometimes some talent HR departments do use the term. A staff member has been terminated, or can you please terminate this staff member? And it could be that they are leaving on their own. On their own terms, and they have handed in their notice and working their notice and moving to another company. There are obviously situations where HR has taken the decision with leadership or the business to actually fire and instantly terminate somebody, and they sometimes can have different processes for how you would deal with those accounts, but the basic element is the security, which we spoke about of changing the password. For we automate all of this in our SaaSOps process and practice. We do as well. Using Better Cloud, one of the big most established SMPs, SaaS management platforms, and I actually have an OU that, a workflow that gets triggered when somebody's put in an organizational unit that does just that. It does the password reset. It does all of those key things that we just spoke about, resetting the sign-in cookies. And then at the end of that workflow,
another workflow.
Yeah. But then guess what happens after that one? Triggers another one. I've broken it down into 6 different stages. And it's like a waterfall, because that's cool. Because some of them in the Better Cloud platform, you can have wait for duration. So for some things like when somebody leaves, you might wait 30 days and then suspend the account. That gives 30 days for the out of offices to work. People get informed of, who's taking over that person's role. And then somebody who's having delegated access to the email can get out the data that they need or monitor that mailbox for a set period of time. But yeah, the wait for duration allows us to have a timed action, and it works quite well in individual workflows.
Well, I have to
OUs.
say, I don't have 6. I have 2, 3, I think. Yeah, 3 workflows that run back to back when we terminate a user. And that's just because I think your organization is bigger than mine, but
yeah.
But ours triggers when you suspend somebody, and that's because we have an identity provider that doesn't work very well with S&Ps. And so we start our termination there by removing them from all the groups. So, which will terminate them, which suspends them in the app and starts the termination process.
So this is where the 10 people with 10 different ways of doing it, because a lot of it depends on around what is your IDP, your identity provider, whether you're using... What does your
stack look like? Yeah.
If you're using Okta or you're using Office 365, as your primary account, and then single signing on into...
Or if you have like HR systems tied to your identity provider.
Right. Yeah.
Then sometimes HR can kick off the termination.
Yeah. And I know, incredibly large organizations, 30,000 people, that is the process they do. One organization I know that has been around for a very long time, when your AD account was everything. Your AD account gave you access to your Exchange mail, your applications, the file server, the VPN. The HRS system, the HR information system, was connected to AD, so that when HR would put in that somebody was leaving, it would put in their date, and it would automatically disable that AD account at 5 o'clock on the day. Yeah.
And it was cooks in the kitchen.
Yep. Yeah, that was.
Don't even need to say Jerry or Cherry. I can just put in a date.
Yeah.
Suffice it to say, Colin, how much time do you think your workflows save in, let's say, a month?
Cool.
Is that too long?
No. I didn't. I was trying to work out how many people may leave the company in a month. And I don't know those figures, but I would say 10 minutes is saved from every leaver.
Really? Only 10?
Well, in those, you mean all of my workflows that deal with all of the other applications? I would say it would take 25-30 minutes to fully go through into all of the applications.
You have got some very knowledgeable, very fast clickers.
I think, I'm thinking back to how we used to do it manually back in the day before workflows came around. But Atlassian, Dropbox, if somebody's got Zoom.
I mean, because I used to work through these when I was an entry help desk person, tier 1 help desk support. And our checklist, I had 28 items on it. It used to take me 45 minutes.
Wow.
Because none of our SaaS tools were connected. They all had separate logins and stuff back in the day. So, you had to log into each one, do all the stuff.
Yeah.
Update the ticket. Yeah. About 45 minutes. And that was 4 years ago now. Right. So we've come a long way from that. Today, if I had to estimate how long our workflows would save us, it would be closer to an hour and a half.
Really? Wow.
Over time, because you have to think about in that 3 months, right? Yeah. When they go, or that 30 days when you have to go suspend them again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. And
have
then
got all
again later when you have to go change the license to archive or delete them.
Yes. All of
deleting. That counts.
Oh my God. Yes,
I'm not even factoring in the focus piece, which is anytime your attention is diverted.
Yeah. So I'm going to adjust it. Yeah, my 30 minutes is going to be at least an hour plus, because I think, I don't know what yours, certainly the standard that I've heard from other organizations is somebody leaves after 30 days, you suspend the account. Another 60 days after it, you delete the account. So you're deleting the account 90 days, yeah. 90 days after the person has left, but 30 days of it being active. And we used to have a process when we needed more Google licenses, we would go through and we would delete those accounts.
Delete the oldest suspended user.
But then, but what we had to do beforehand, we had to make sure that they were in our backup program.
Right.
But because we wanted to check that they were in there. But now I have a workflow that automatically does that. So, and it automatically deletes them. So yes, through automation, through our SaaSOps practice, we are saving at least an hour a month for every person who leaves. And if you're a 2,000 person company, you can extrapolate what a reasonable churn rate might be. And also automation comes in beautifully with creating accounts and onboarding people,
Right. So Colin, my last question for you before we wrap up is, what do you do with all that extra time? Obviously, we're talking about automation here. There's a lot of concern out there that if you automate a lot of this stuff, right, people will lose their jobs. But I don't feel that way in my role. I don't feel like automating has lost anything. So what do you do with that extra time?
Spend it mostly probably on security. DLP rules within the admin panel or within other applications, testing and deploying something like context-aware access, changing how you do MFA, getting rid of phone-based MFA, deploying advanced protection, tighten security keys, and advanced protection program for key staff and accounts. There is a lot of additional stuff that you can do, patch management, staying ahead of the curve, spending your time and your team's time evaluating new technologies, working out how you can be zero trust. If you've got, an on-premise Active Directory, doing a trial for OneLogin, Jump Cloud, Okta, Azure AD, find out how you can get rid of your on-premise AD and go, purely cloud. That's where the time is spent through saving hours in the day through automation.
Right. Because when you're just sitting around doing checklists all the time, you don't have time to think about, how do I improve this situation? What can we do differently that might make things better? You're not going to have time for that.
No.
Definitely not.
So as we go to end, I want to share one thing with you. So at the beginning, you said, when we were talking about backup codes, you said, who prints out and keeps backup codes? So
are you going to prove it to me? Oh man, I don't even have a printer.
I realized I have a very old wallet here on the desk, and in its little secret zipped in compartment is some backup codes. I'm just showing you on the camera. So, and it says printed on the 6th of March, 2013 at 10:06 a.m.
Are those your first Google backup codes?
These were my first Google backup codes when we enabled in our organization. Obviously, I tested it first. We enabled two-step verification in March of 2013 in our organization.
Wow. Save that for the history book.
Yeah. I'll send it on to the Smithsonian and see if they're interested.
Of relics of a bygone era.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they don't work because I'm sure at some stage my backup codes have been
No, I think
reset.
They refresh pretty regularly.
Right. Yeah. But they should be. And this is a passing piece of wisdom. When any service you're using, especially personally, and you go and you're signing up, whether it's your bank or anything, GitHub, I think, TeamViewer, any of these other services, and they say, here's your MFA code and here's your backup code. And some of them will make you save the backup code and download it before it will allow you to complete. Actually make a copy of that backup code, put it in your Google Drive, put it, somewhere.
In your password manager, in your
password manager, because
something.
I have had to use those backup codes to get back into services when like a phone has been lost or broken or accidentally reset itself due to a hardware issue.
I think the only time I've ever used them, 2 times. Once was I had not used an account for a very long time because I had just like moved on from whatever it was. I had to use my backup codes, and I was so glad that I saved them on my computer and that I never delete anything. And then the other time was when I upgraded my phone one year. They wouldn't let me turn on the new phone until I had erased the old one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a terrible practice, by the way.
Yeah.
Like they had never heard of two-step. And so I had to have a lot of two-step backup codes to get out of that one. I took a few minutes to like turn off two-step for like the big ones, but as you said, right, you can enforce two-step in your organization. And so that's not an option for people. And so, if I didn't have those two-step verification codes, I would have been calling my own team to let me into my account.
And that is very embarrassing. I do know that they did make an improvement with the Google Authenticator. You now can transfer it to a different phone, which is very good.
I started using Authy after that.
Right. Yeah. But I do know that many MFA programs will fail or break if you try just to use the, if you've got an iOS device and you try and use the device restore on your new device, or the transfer,
you have to reset all of it up.
Yeah. And I know that on the Microsoft Authenticator login, you can reshare some account information, but not all. You can sync it to your Microsoft account, but some organizational stuff doesn't come down.
Usually, requires having both devices on at the same time, and so in this case, I could not, and it was so miserable. And I looked at the sales rep and I was like, "You must be joking."
Yeah. That's why those trade-in deals aren't worth it.
No, there's not.
Not when MFA is concerned. And also, we're going to have a whole topic on MFA, but we'll save that for another time. It's been great to chat about automation and how we can use SaaS and SaaSOps. Yep. I
wish Jerry the best of luck.
Yeah. And we will see Cherry on Monday morning because they have not been let go.
Thanks, Colin.
Bye.
Produced by the Tab Geeks Network. Enjoy all of our shows on YouTube at youtube.com/TabGeeks. Join our exclusive, free, no sponsors allowed Slack community and sign up for our newsletter at tabgeeks.com.